Step aside Beyonce, Rihanna and Kanye. It's now time for local artists to shine in Mzansi. Now this follows the SABC announcing it will play 90% of South African music across its 18 radio stations, which started from the 12th of May. We would like to get some reactions from local artists to find out how they feel about this outcome and what it means for them going forward. Now joining me in studio to further unpack this decision is Lady Zamar. I got your name correct, right?
Yes, you did.
Let's perhaps start with your reactions. When the news broke, SABC saying they're going to play 90% local music on all 18 radio stations. What was going on in your mind?
I was shocked, to be honest. I mean, you tune into radio and the one thing that you notice is that as much as your local artists are being played, there's a whole lot of international artist music out there, and sometimes it's songs that have not even been playlisted in their respective countries, but South Africa has already playlisted them, you understand? So it's one of those things where you're like, is this really happening? You know, it's shocking, but it's also one of those things that make you go, yay, this is a great time to be a musician or an artist in South Africa.
And you're an upcoming musician.
Yeah.
What does this mean to you?
More ever. It means freedom, honestly, you know. Sometimes you, as an artist, you're listening to radio, you're listening to all the popular music out there on an international scale, and you're like, I need to compete with them, do you understand? And you kind of have to create songs that radio will accept. Do you understand? Now, it kind of gives South African artists, is like for me, example, that thing of, I can now make South African music that South Africans will consume happily and will be on some, you know what, this is our artist, that kind of thing, yeah. It's freedom, really.
I'm going to hold you there. I want to bring in ABCB, who's the CEO of Sambro, as well as the spokesperson. Thank you so much for your time joining us on ANN7. Let's perhaps, you know, for the benefit of the viewers, just explain to us what Sambro is all about.
Sambro is a music rights organization, the South African Music Rights Organization. Our duty is to collect money due to artists as a royalty from radio stations and TV stations. And this is done through a system of reporting that comes via the creator of the music, whom we call creators, and it goes to the SABC or the radio station or TV, and they, based on how much content they're playing, would then pay and report to Sambro based on how much play the song has had, and it doesn't matter what music it is. It just depends what was played and when it was played and for how long. And then they report, and of course we then calculate the royalty from our side, and we hand it over to the artist at periodic times within a year.
And let's perhaps speak about this decision by the SABC and your reaction and what this means for Sambro.
It means a lot of things, but if you consider that there are 24 hours in a day where music was played, so the only shift now is that in that time, the quota of local artists is going to be higher. So it doesn't make our work more or less. It just simply means that in terms of the payments, if South African music is played more, it means that South African artists are going to earn more. It also means that maybe just as a word of advice, because you get a lot of other young and upcoming artists, you have to make sure you report if you do anything, whether it's for an advert, whether it's for a live concert, whether it's for a record, make sure that you link up with Sambro so that you record. If you make sure you report accordingly, then we have all the data. When it's time for you to get paid, then they get paid. So it will mean a lot of things for artists, apart from just the excitement of growing our culture and also the excitement of you know, our pride of the nation, but also there's the issue of having their music being heard more. It develops them, it grows the artistry, it opens the opportunities for them to collaborate among themselves, and also they can just perfect their craft. Yes.
And perhaps just elaborate a bit more on that and how it actually opens up the industry to other local talent, maybe.
Oh yes, definitely. Because I should imagine that if you have say, a certain amount of pool of artists that you are playing because the quota is a certain way. When you have to open up that quota further, you need fresh material. Of course, you'll go into the new material and the older material so that you have a good mix that keeps things interesting and creative. And so definitely, the advice to artists would be, write some more. You can experiment. There are many who are afraid to experiment, I should imagine, because they have to keep to a certain style, and the artistry gets stifled. And this is the time, because the SABC, the national broadcaster, has said we are opening the gates, bring in the music. And I should imagine others are going to submit even more albums, and record labels are going to submit quite a lot of music that's interesting. We should tune in and just listen to all the interesting music, dynamic music we'll get to hear in this season.
Sorry to cut you off there, but do you perhaps feel that it would also boost the quality of music? Because, the issue here was that South African music and the quality of the production was not necessarily up to par. Do you perhaps feel that this decision will open up the industry to more quality?
I think the national broadcaster will definitely hold musicians to a higher standard and hold them accountable for the quality that they produce. And so, being a musician myself, I know when I go into studio, when you mix, when you write your music, you always think as an international artist, you think as a global artist, you think as a person who lives in the global village. So definitely the standard must go up. But then it doesn't talk only to the artists, it talks to the producers of music. It talks to the songwriters. It talks to the quality of the studio equipment. And it's just the whole ecosystem has to fit in so that we get to improve ourselves. But I can assure you that as soon as musicians, engineers, studios have more money, they will invest in more equipment, and you'll hear a sound that you've never heard before.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to bring the discussion back into studio. You heard AB speaking about the quality and that it will have to go up. Perhaps what are your reactions, or perhaps what are your thoughts with regards to the quality and the production of South African music?
He's right about the quality having to go up, because, think about it. If you don't have the opportunity to be heard on radio, you don't have the opportunity to make money, right? Studio costs a lot of money. Now, some people resort to bad quality studios because they don't have the resources. But now imagine, people now will have the chance to be on radio. It'll give people more money to book great studios and record their music there. As South Africans, I think everywhere in the world, actually, not just South Africans, we suffer from that whole thing of you want your music to be heard so badly that sometimes you just settle for less. You understand? And I'm not saying that you just need to go to, I'm not saying you need to go to these, fancy studios only. There are some amazing self-made studios that are beyond. The quality is amazing, do you understand? So it'll just give people more motivation to take out that money and to make an amazing song so that they can make more money and make more amazing songs, basically, yeah.
Definitely, AB, you heard there from Zamar saying that, the singers, songwriters will come out wanting to produce better content because, they know that they'll be getting rewarded for it. But why have we seen this drop in local music content across radio stations?
Well, radio stations, if I'm not an authority, I've just been around in the media industry, but maybe what I can suggest is that I would think that there's a science to running a radio station as there is a science to running a TV station. They are driven more by the kind of audience they want to attract, and then you have to add into that equation the issue of advertisers buying airtime in the stations. And so that's what designs the hue and the look and the sound and feel of a station that pitches itself to a certain market. So that, along with that, goes the kind of music that you would play. But if there's a word that goes out from national broadcaster, maybe say government, as it was with ICASA most recently, upping the quota, it simply means that the planning of content on all these platforms has to be a little different in that they have to accommodate a little more local, and then they would plan their programming accordingly. And I can assure you that as much as we all enjoy South African music, there is something that we still haven't heard from our local artists that is yet to be created, the collaborations that are profound, the quality of music. I mean, you can talk about some of the best artists that have come out of this country. As far as the education and the quality, some of our local artists study overseas, and they are sitting with those skills. And because of what has happened now, and I'm sure everyone is just getting ready, running back to the studios, you'll hear a different sound altogether, and the collaborations that will come out, and just the quality that you'll hear. Some are actually sitting with music that they have not released, and it's now going to be released, I'm sure.
I saw you nodding your head in agreement.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. If you look at the landscape right now, there's so many talented South African artists. I mean, being an artist myself, I look at how many of them have not had airplay, you know? And some people don't get a radio because their names are not known. So now there's like, it's exciting, to be honest, you know? The unfortunate truth is that previously, in the past, there was that thing of the advertisers do play a huge role in what gets played on certain radio stations because they pay for a certain feel, like he said. Do you understand? But now that it's all changing, advertisers will also be forced to change because music is it's a force to be reckoned with. And if we change the landscape of radio, advertisers will have to adapt to that instead of radio adapting to the advertisers themselves.
Definitely. AB, back to you. You know, the Quota received a whole lot of mixed reactions, some saying, yeah, that's a bit too high. Do you perhaps feel that it was moderately put into perspective when looking at radio stations and the target markets that they have?
Yeah, that's interesting because when we had the announcement, all of us, I think we got quiet a bit, and I waited to hear more, and then I went to buy the paper myself so I could get it. I don't think so. You know, if you travel across the world, you might find that in different countries, the quotas differ from country to country because of the nation and what the nation decides. And this is no different to anything that happens out in the world. There is always so much music in any country because of the culture, the heritage, so much music. Even South Africa is as rich as the US, is as rich as the UK and maybe China, or Australia and France. You know, all these countries in the world have a certain quota that they follow, because a country of a free people has so much, especially when people are free to create and the airwaves are welcoming to them to play their music and their concepts and their adverts, and there's TV, because there's, you know, people use some of the music and take it to drama, to TV. The scope is so wide. It's just exciting, and the creativity levels shoot up because of the freedom of the moment.
One might argue and say that, look, it's only the radio part, but television also plays a different and a strong medium in terms of what people consume.
Oh yes, these are two different media, but they are the same in some way, in that music is always the driving factor that attracts audiences. So the kind of music you would hear on radio is sort of what you would see. The only difference with TV is that it's visuals, and visuals themselves have a certain value they add in terms of attracting audiences. And so, in fact, in South Africa, you do see that on our TV screens are right across the board, across different channels. They play quite a lot of South African music, just as much as they play a lot of local content in terms of dramas and short movies. And so it's a different, shall I say, it's an interesting and exciting time to be a South African at this time.
It is, and it's interesting to see that radio is catching up, because you've spoken about the series and the dramas that we see now, that you know, television has adopted South African content, and now radio is kind of like catching up. But perhaps just to close this interview with both of you, and thank you so much for your time, just your closing comments. First, let me start with AB. Your closing comments, and perhaps what you have to say to those people who feel, look, this was not a great decision by the SABC.
Well, I would say give it a chance, but I wouldn't maybe want to talk more into business. I would say to artists, try and improve on your administration, your personal administration, in terms of when you have done work, report well for it, and feel free to be creative. Know as well that your creativity, your music, your creations don't have to live on commercial music only. They can live on adverts, they can live on TV, they can live on dramas and all that. Get to understand the landscape, because this is a great commercial opportunity for local artists. And we read the stories every time about how poor we die. We die poor mostly because we are artists and all that. And this can change the whole landscape if we also do our part and make sure that we are very, shall I say, we keep a keen eye on the administration part, the business part of the music, so that we don't let anything fall by the cracks.
And some of your closing comments to some people who are feeling that this was a high quota and a drastic decision taken by the SABC and feel, look, I don't want to listen to Lady Zamar, I want to listen to Beyonce. Perhaps your closing comments to them.
Well, you can go buy Beyonce's albums if you want to listen to Beyonce, and hopefully in that 10% she'll come up in radio. I mean, I'm a Beyonce fan, but I really want to hear what South Africans have to say, and I think the 90% is really not high at all. I mean, look at other countries. Their economies are bursting because of the fact that they play most of their local music. Their artists are thriving, you understand? And I think people forget that it's not just music. When South African music is thriving, producers are thriving, not just the artists in front, it's the production as well. Then you go back to television, there's the graphic designers, there's the animators, there's the content producers, and all those people. That whole entire segment is growing, do you understand, together with the music. So people should stop looking at it as, oh my gosh, I want to listen to international artists only. You can buy their albums. There's many shops, retail stores, they call it music retail stores, that sell these albums. But give South Africans a chance. There are too many talented people in this country for it to just be one of those things where it's about your opinion. Think about the economy itself. We're constantly complaining about the fact that the economy is not growing. But art is one of the biggest income reapers everywhere in the world. So allow art to actually contribute, and maybe then people will understand that artistry is a career, because a lot of people look at artists as lazy and people that just do stuff for the sake of doing them. But I mean, look at Americans, their art industry, the entire music industry, it brings in so much revenue for them. Do you understand? America, Europe, those places are tourist attractions because of the fact that they've got people that they want to go see, and places that people from outside those countries want to go to because of what their ideology that they've been streaming into our country. Let South Africa have a chance to then say, listen, we have done this much, this is what we're doing. If then it fails, let it then be on the people, but not because government or people in leadership or television or whatever decided to be the ones that are blocking everything. Let the artists fail themselves, and I don't think they're going to fail anyway.
Yeah, it goes on to that point. Open up the industry. We want to see local talent coming on board. Thank you very much. On the phone line, we're joined by SABC CEO and spokesperson of Sambro. Thank you so much for your time. In studio, I was joined by the ever so beautiful Lady Zamar. Thank you so much for your time.